All right, so brief updates. So the like I posted online, I'll put sort of a formal Canvas thing explaining the final exam, but I basically summarized most of it in an announcement. So the final exam, our final exam day is I think Tuesday. So if we did a traditional final exam, you'd show up here like Tuesday, sometime in the morning. I think it's like at 9:50 a.m. and we would do an exam here for 110 minutes. But that's not exactly what we're going to do. So the final exam for this class is a little bit has a little bit less structure than that. It's a Canvas-based exam. You can take it at home. It's open book, open notes. So open Canvas. But there's no Respondus, lockdown browser, or anything like that. I'm just trusting you to sort of be good students, and it's an individual exam, so it's not meant. You're not supposed to collaborate with anyone else. It's very much similar to the concept checks, and so when if there's a practice exam, if you go into the final exam module, and in that practice exam, it actually randomly draws questions from all of the concept checks and throws in a few new ones. So every time you take the practice exam, which should be a good estimate for the length and the kind of content and the types of questions you'll get in the final exam, you might get a slightly different set of questions. And so the practice exam should be good practice for the final exam. But the final exam is basically going to be a couple of questions that you might expect to see on every concept check, all kind of grouped together, taken individually. And I give you, I think, 125 minutes to do it. So you can take it anytime you want, definitely all day Tuesday. And I'm going to think about it. I might actually give you Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday just to provide you my maximum flexibility. But then once you start it on Canvas, even you have to finish it in that 125 minutes. Now, again, I'm not going to require Respondus or anything like that. So it's if you click away or come back or whatever, if you have a different tab open or that's fine. But it will be timed then. So once you start, you've got to finish it within that. But it's not meant to be something that's going to be super stressful or anything. But whereas large chunk of this course is the project-based grades, then this is just supposed to make sure that everybody comes out of the course out of week 15 and still kind of remembers some of the stuff from all the individual things, because your projects are supposedly about something that's maybe different than what we talked about in class. And so it's basically just running through the concept checks all over again. That's kind of the final exam. So that's the idea with the final exam. Like I said, definitely you'll have all day Tuesday to choose when you want to do it. And I think I might expand it to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll put an update online. And then basically anytime in that time you can hit start, you just got to finish within 125 minutes. Why 125? It's just the normal 110 minutes we give for final exam period. And then I add 15 for any like technical snafus due to, Canvas hiccups or something like that. So any questions about the final exam setup? Yeah.
The final project is the presentation in person or virtual?
Oh, that's all virtual. So yeah, and sorry if this wasn't clear on if I think I mentioned this, if you actually go to the final presentation link, all your presentations are sort of asynchronous. And so what the idea is that Wednesday of next week, that's the last day of class, that's when your reports and presentations are due. So by 11:59 Wednesday, you're going to upload your report, which is your 4-page kind of extended abstract, and you're going to upload. And I think I put I suggested 10 minutes, but I think on Canvas I say I don't want to misquote myself if I said 10 minutes or 12 minutes. But then you're going to upload it's a maximum, say 10-minute or 12-minute presentation to Canvas that you can record however you'd like, Zoom or whatever, and you'll upload that, and that'll be done by Wednesday night, and with your partner. So it's a group presentation, a group report. And then the idea is then between Wednesday and Saturday, you will be, so at Wednesday night after 11:59, everybody will get randomly assigned one report from another group and one presentation from another group to peer review. And so then you will go and read someone else's extended abstract and read and watch someone else's presentation, not necessarily from the same group, those two. And then that kind of takes the place from us. That way we don't have to sit here and have everybody go through everyone's presentations, which would be interesting initially, but the returns fall off very quickly by the end of it. So instead of doing in-person presentations, we do this kind of asynchronous where you're guaranteed that 2 or 3 people are going to see your presentation and read your report, and then you yourself only have to read one report and watch one presentation. You're going to do your peer reviews, and so there's instructions for how to do that on Canvas. And so you basically fill out a rubric that I've given you. So those are numerical scores, and you leave some constructive feedback, a couple of lines of what you liked, what you didn't like, or whatever. And then that will go anonymously back to the writers of the report or the makers of the presentation. And I'll be able to see who left the comments, but they won't be able to see that. And then so I will then give you a grade for your peer reviews. And that basically is, I'm just going to go through everyone's peer reviews and make sure you left a constructive comment. And I'm not going to grade you on the content of the comment. It just has to look sort of constructive, and that everybody's filled out the rubric. And then you'll get your peer review scores for the report and the presentation. And then I'm going to look at all those scores and aggregate them, and then also look at the reports in the presentations myself. And part of the peer review will go into the matrix I use to assign the scores for your actual presentation. So your presentation will be based in part on what I think of your presentation, and in some small part on what your peers think of your presentation. So that's the way I'm kind of, instead of doing an in-person thing, trying to make it so that there's buy-in for this asynchronous presentation. And that gives us a little bit more time in class to go over a little bit more topics, and you don't have to sit through a bunch of disconnected presentations. Yeah.
You mentioned the maximum threshold for time. Is there a minimum threshold?
No, I mean, the minimum threshold, it's sort of a different, so the upper constraint is based on time, the lower constraint is based on content. So as long as it's complete, so I want to come out of a presentation, and this goes for any presentation really, without like major questions. Like, so you probably shouldn't be super detailed because those probably aren't that important, like not appropriate for a presentation level material, but you don't want to come out of it with somebody saying like, wait, what did they do? What are the results? Like sometimes people might say, this is what we are going to do, and these are some conclusions we think we're going to have, but they don't actually put any results, and it looks like they maybe didn't actually execute, and that would probably be poor scoring. But if in 8 minutes you can say, here's the algorithm and what it was built for, here's how we decided to demonstrate it, here's the results of our demonstration, here's what those results mean, kind of intro, methods, results, discussion. And that's all fits compactly in 8 minutes, and you answer all those questions, and I come away with it thinking like, oh, wow, now I understand neuroevolution of augmented topologies or whatever the algorithm is, then that's fine. So no lower limit. Like, I think you guys probably seen enough presentations, or you're starting to go to conferences or maybe you see seminars around here. No one ever complains about a short presentation, but no one ever is excited about a long presentation. Like no one's like, wow, I'm really glad that speaker went over their 45 minutes, so you don't worry so much about the time, but do not go over. Well, go ahead.
Is there any format for the PPT?
No, I mean, if you want to use it, it's possible you don't want to use PowerPoint. You want to present in some other way. I just want you and your partner, and you don't necessarily have to split the time equally or anything like that, but I want your group to just have an effective demonstration. Now, for some people, that might mean switching between like an actual simulation or something behind them. And so you might tab over to something that's running in some platform, and then you could actually do something interactive and then tab back. And if that works for you, then that's fine. Most people will probably put together slides, but again, I just focus more on whether you have kind of those 4 thrusts. Like, are you motivating and sort of an intro? What did you do? Methods. What were the actual quantitative results that come out of it? Results, and how do those results link back to your intro discussion? Yeah.
Would students have to present or one person?
I think as long as it's clear that both students played a role, then I don't think it's necessary, again, for you to sort of split things up. So it may be that in some groups, there's one student's strength will really be the presenting of the results, and the other student's strength was really in helping to build the algorithms or something like that. Because that's what happens in normal teams, you know. And so so there's in the rubric there won't be something like, you know, each student spent exactly t divided by 2, you know, minutes on it. But it should be kind of somehow clear, and I don't know how you necessarily make this clear, but I think there's different ways you could do this, that it wasn't just like one student standing behind the other student did all the work and all the presentations or whatever. So as long as it's clear that during the development of the project, both were involved, I'm okay with there being kind of a front person in the band that's kind of standing out front and giving all the results. You said it.
With extended abstract, will we be submitting the code as well?
Yeah, I think it says, I think in the final report assignment, it lists what the deliverables are expected, but it's similar to many projects. Submit the extended abstract, which is 4 pages with sort of required content, but then there's like an unlimited appendix that you can put on top of that. And then I think I also specifically ask for the code. A lot of it's just for accountability, but what you're going to be graded for is primarily what's in that 4 pages. Yeah. You said if you're working with 2 or 3, yeah. Oh, so if you have multiple files, then on Canvas, I'd like you to upload all of the files independently. You know, so you'll have like your PDF of your document and then a bunch of files underneath that, and we'll be able to find the PDF and rate, you know, and review and review that. So that's kind of how we would want to do that. Oh, so if you have a GitHub link, I would prefer that for the, you know, if in reality, if you were submitting to a conference, you definitely would do like, I put my extended abstract and I'd have a link to my GitHub code, and I understand, but for reasons involving just pedagogy and accountability and whatever, I actually need you to upload the source files to Canvas. All right, any other questions? Questions online? Let me, oh, I didn't turn the chat towards me. Let me make sure there's nothing online here. All right, there's how many minutes per presentation? I should have double checked that ahead of time. Again, if you go to the presentation link on Canvas, it should say, I think I set an upper limit of either 10 or 12 minutes. And then there's a question of, if your algorithms have a lot of steps, do you need to spend a bunch of time explaining every step? I would not recommend that. Your presentation has a different purpose than your report. So, you know, I've tried to, you know, a lot of times when I go over algorithms here, I give a very high level perspective, because you're trying to communicate kind of the salient features of it. Like, you know, if you're talking about, you know, wolf pack algorithm or whatever, like how does it differ from particle swarm optimization or something like. Okay, so so if there's like a particular section where you're like, let's really zoom in on this, like a lot of the setup or whatever, just it would be the same for any meta heuristic, if you're doing an optimization meta heuristic or whatever. And so so you just kind of choose your focus. Like, you know, you want to budget your time so that you're communicating some interesting salient feature. Like, why is this algorithm? You don't have to tell me, like, I don't have to come away from your presentation knowing how to implement the algorithm. But what I should do is I should come away with the presentation knowing why I might want to use that algorithm. So you're saying, look, this algorithm's got these extra levers that these other algorithms don't. And look how we use these levers. We use these levers to better improve the way this neural network did this, or we use these levers to improve the way this optimization algorithm did this other thing. And if you can show me how those levers work, then I will then say, that was really interesting. Let me go and read the paper to find out more details. Just like you would at an academic conference, you wouldn't present every single line of your code, or you could, but then I would leave your presentation probably, right? So the idea here is you tell me why I should be interested and show me the results and bring me along with that story so that I will be so excited that I will look up things in the conference proceedings and read your paper. And, so that's similar like when you're writing your paper in the extended abstract. Okay, so I was saying, if you were writing like a full paper, like in your extended abstract, you don't technically need an abstract for your extended abstract. If you'd like to put one in, if it would help, that's okay, but an extended abstract doesn't necessarily need an abstract. But if you're writing an abstract for a paper, that's a similar sort of idea where your abstract is supposed to capture every single thing that you did in the paper that's relevant, that's like important. So like I rarely read whole papers. I usually read titles, and if the titles interest me, the abstracts. If the abstracts say something really like surprising and in a way that I don't just think they did it wrong, then I'll read the paper. And you'll eventually get to that point in your career where you'll only be reading titles and then sometimes reading abstracts and then very rarely reading whole papers. And once you start citing them in your own papers, you might read the whole paper to do your due diligence. But if you're just keeping up, that's all you're going to read. And so it's kind of a similar thing with presentations and reports. It's like abstracts versus the whole body of the paper. Presentations are almost like an extended abstract of a full report, if that makes sense. And then there was one other question that was about, can we, if you would like to upload your videos from this class to YouTube, that is up to you. You sort of own the copyright to them, and I don't view it as academic misconduct for you to upload those presentation videos because nobody else can really make use of them verbatim. So if you want to do that and you kind of want to make that as part of like a portfolio, a professional portfolio of here's a report I did on a cool project that I put together, then I would encourage you to do so. And I see one more question. So more visuals, less wordy code is the way to go for the presentation. I would say that's a decent summary, is that your presentation should be a prop that aids in your discussion of why this is a cool algorithm worthy of discussion or why it is not. Like you might find that this, special, harmonic chord optimization algorithm or whatever is actually just, exactly the same as the genetic algorithm with different terms. And so if you like this one, you may as well just use the GA. That might be what comes out of that, and that would be a fine result. But yeah, that's the idea, is that you're making an argument that you can do as the most, you need to make a convincing argument in 10 or whatever 12 minutes. And my guess is the most convincing arguments won't be ones where you go through line by line of code. So however that argument needs to be made, just, how do you compress an argument into kind of an extended elevator pitch of, a 10-minute presentation? All right, any other questions about final project, final exam? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Assignment name final exam. So when I just got into that assignment, I didn't find the practice.
So if you go to it should be, if you're having trouble finding this, send me a note. But if you go into Canvas, I could try to do it here, but I'm a little afraid of what's going to happen if I open my Canvas while screen sharing. But if you go into Canvas and then go under modules, there's a final exam module. It's like right under the course exam module, and there should be 2 assignments there. One, the final exam assignment that you can't get access to, and a second one that says practice final exam. And you should be able to click on that and then take it right now. If you can't, let me know. And that means it's something wrong on my end, and I'll like update some accessibility or whatever. But as far as I know, the last time I checked, it looked like it should be available. Anything else? Questions online, in person? All right. Okay. Very good. Maybe actually to make it easier for me, I'm going to start a new recording here just so my trimming can be limited.